this program. Today we are talking about tourism and tourism development in Guyana. And to have this discussion with us is no other than the Honorable Cathy Hughes, Minister of Tourism. Minister, thank you very much for taking some time to sit with us. Basically, we are checking to see how things have been. Government is in office almost 6 months now. We want an update. First of all, with regard to tourism and the ministry, how do you think you have done so far, or how do you think the tourism industry is progressing so far under your watch, Minister?
Well, I've always been excited at the opportunity to push our tourism industry forward. And I think that as we look back on the last 6 months, it has been extensive and intensive. Intensive because I do feel as though we have been running for the last 6 months, which is very, very necessary. We focused on bringing a lot of things together. As you will recall, we were creating a new ministry. So in terms of our policies, initiatives, reaching out to the diaspora, reaching out to Guyanese at home, visiting several parts of the country, examining our tourism product, getting an idea of where we need to change, what we need to focus on, what we need to do in moving forward. I'm really excited that I think we would score pretty high on the work we've done in that area. So we've got a good base, and we're looking forward to next year to starting to implement some very, very specific and strategic things.
Well, what would you say are some of your most immediate, if any, achievement so far?
Well, I think that we've had a very supportive and a very good relationship with the stakeholders in this industry. As you would know, just last week, earlier this week actually, 4 days ago, we concluded what was our Stakeholder Forum, where we had an overwhelming show of support. We had, I would think, without really knowing for sure how many, but just from my count, we had over 50 people that work in the industry. These would be the tourists, the tour providers, the hoteliers, the resort owners, the people involved with birding, the boat people, a wide section of individuals that spent the day together looking at how are we going to improve our product, how are we going to market better, and most importantly, how are we going to package what we have for the local market and also for an international market. So that kind of relationship that we've developed with the private sector, I think is very, very important, that we can put our heads together and say, this is what we need to work on, this is what we're doing in the next year. In addition to that, I think that we have been able to raise awareness generally in terms of the general population of what we want to do. So we've gone to them often. We've told them and kept them abreast of our yachting, and my visits overseas, my visits to places in Guyana. And one of the things we want to do in the near future is to really make sure that we start to put specific projects in place. We started in Region 8 what we call the READY project, where we got some people that have been involved in informal tourism in the Region 8 area to go and be able to experience tourism at Anai, at Irikrama. And this was an opportunity for them to see the level at which they can move to. And so one of the very important things we're focusing on is in each region identifying the opportunities for tourism, the products, the businesses that could be developed with assistance from the private sector. So we did that initiative in Region 8. I personally went out to Region 10 on 2 occasions, and we've looked at possibilities there. To go hand in hand with that, I also went to the Rupununi area, Sarama and Rewa, looking at their community tourism model, which is an excellent model that can be duplicated elsewhere. We looked at the Bina Hill Institute, which again for providing training, not only in tourism, but generally in other areas for the Rupununi area, is another good model that we want to look at and promote. We also went to the Essequibo region and looked at the state of our forts. Fort Island, we looked at 3 of the resorts up there. In fact, tomorrow I'm going to be going to the opening of the new resort, and we're very, very excited that things are happening in that area. So we have been building enough information on how we move forward that I feel confident that next year, we're going to start seeing some real change.
Leading from what you said, building on information, can you give us an update on the National Tourism Policy?
Yes, that policy should be concluded by the end of January. What we have done is that there have been several, and when I say several, close to 15 different consultancies that have been done in different areas that look at different aspects of Guyana's tourism product. And so what we've been doing is bringing all, part of my ministry has been actually looking at all those different studies, and this is the work of mainly Mr. Sinclair, in addition to with support from our tourism development officers. We've been pulling and examining what it is. What are we taking from each of the different recommendations and putting into this holistic policy? And one of the things we were able to conclude last month was we did have an expert that came to look at ecotourism. Why ecotourism? Because we think we have that's a specific one of the niche markets that we want to explore. And the research on our ecotourism product was over a decade old. And we felt that things had happened since then, internationally and also within our country. And we were very happy that UNDP played a very strong role in facilitating 2 ecotourism consultants that are specialists in that area, who had done extensive work in Costa Rica and Peru. And they came and they've given us a very good document that we're actually looking at. And again, what we asked for this time was not just another paper and another theory, but it's structured in terms of an action plan. So what is it that we need to do to get going, to start selling Guyana as a very specialized ecotourism product? So within the tourism policy, I will say that we have supported, and as you know, we redefined Guyana as South America, Guyana, South America undiscovered. And why we did that was because when we go to the international market, we realize that Guyana is not the Caribbean. We are part of CARICOM. We have close relations with the countries in the Caribbean. The Caribbean market is still a large area that more than a quarter of our current tourists come from. But when you're marketing Guyana on an international market, when they hear Caribbean, they think blue water and white sand. And so it was very important for us in our marketing, which will really kick off next year, to identify ourselves as South America. And when we do that, what is South America? It's the magnificence of the Amazon. It's huge rivers like you would see down south in the US, like the Mississippi. It's the beautiful Essequibo, the Demerara, dark waters, creek water. That is the vision. And tied into that is the beauty of our rainforest, our savanna. It is adventure tourism, it's leisure tourism, it's hiking, it's mountains, it is activities, it's sports fishing. It's sports tourism that includes fishing, yachts and rallies, cricket, football, other games, motor racing. Those are the ones that we've highlighted that fit into the sports tourism niche. I mentioned the adventure and leisure, which of course includes our resorts in the Essequibo, Rupununi, boats, traveling on the water, water sports. It also includes places like Irakrama, the Canopy Walkway. Those are all the products that we have that we can sell on the international market. It also includes our bird watching, which is another specific niche that will be talked about in our tourism policy. And we've been very successful in promoting that. That started many years ago with support from GTIS, which came under a USAID funded project. And the birding has developed to a great point, and the potential, we have opportunity to develop it even more. So we have quite a few individuals, believe it or not, as much as 3,000 people that come to Guyana just to see our birds. And there are about 3 reputable birding societies and tour companies that provide that. In addition to birding, the whole heritage tourism is an important aspect that we have identified some years ago that we want to continue to promote. And in heritage, we are looking at our forts, our historical buildings, and I'm really happy to say that the city is being cleaned up. We're talking about restoring some of our historical buildings, and the impact that can have is not just for Guyanese, because we need to live in a clean space. And you know that the president has been very vocal on that. And I'm happy to say that I meet Guyanese that are excited about how the capital city looks. And we're taking it out to other cities within our country. And it's important because next year I really want us to put on the agenda looking at registering part of the city of Georgetown as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. We started talking about that about 15 years ago. And then about 10 years ago it was on the cards again. And we have this tremendous opportunity because there's a part of our city that goes from High Street right up Avenue of the Republic, which could be certified with some improvements to the area as a walkway of World Heritage importance. And that, for example, could start by our Parliament, passing St. Andrew's Church, which is actually my church and which is the oldest church in Guyana. It comes along past our historic law courts. It passes the City Hall building, which is of historic significance. It passes the monuments, the non-aligned monuments that quite often we forget to see and many years ago was covered with bush. It passes St. George's Cathedral, our museum, all the way up. And I strongly feel that if Suriname can have part of their city of Paramaribo designated as a World Heritage Site, then certainly Georgetown has a lot that we can work on. So that's the heritage tourism niche. I've spoken about heritage, leisure, sports. Ecotourism is the one I touched on. And that's another important area. People don't realize that the ecotourism industry is still the fastest growing industry in the bigger tourism model. But for ecotourism, there's some very specific things that need to go with that. So the whole issue of organic, the whole issue of sustainable tourism, and in most places of the world, there are few models that can really be called ecotourism. And therefore, it's a process of growth. And so we want to say that it's more sustainable tourism. Right now, it's adventure tourism. But we want to identify, with the recent study we did, a few pockets that we're going to be able to sell to the world. This is a real ecotourism experience. So I think that's an idea of the various facets and what you can expect in the tourism policy.
Minister, you would agree that marketing Guyana here, there, and everywhere is important.
Yeah.
At the same time, you have to have a good product to sell.
Yes.
How are we doing in terms of policy development? No, sorry, product development.
I think that what we have already, we already have a good product. We have a certain amount of training that the private sector, with support with the GTA, with support of the ministry, especially with TAG 2, the training has been done. and I've seen the product firsthand. And I travel a lot, so I can put my word and say a lot of the product is a quality product. The challenge they've had is that most of these entities have been operating at much lower occupancies than they need to really sustain and develop the industry. So you can't have local hotels, especially small hotels. You can't have resorts that can operate indefinitely at 30% occupancy. So we need to boost that. So that means that more people in Guyana have got to be encouraged to support the industry locally, and of course, as we're doing overseas, more people coming in to support it. Next year, I think, will be a good year, because in addition to the marketing efforts that we have, that we're going to kick off, it's also our 50th anniversary. So there are more people, especially from the diaspora, that are going to be coming on board and coming to visit our country. But what we did at this seminar that we had just recently, the focus was on product innovation, the business of tourism through product innovation. And so we were looking at the first part of the morning, how you package our product. And that's one of the criticisms that the Guyana tourism product has faced. If I am in New York and I am thinking, am I going to Jamaica or am I going to Guyana? I can find a package to Jamaica that makes it easy for me as a consumer, meaning that they will have the airfare from wherever I am to Jamaica and back, a price for the airfare. They will have my hotel also in there. They'll tell me I may be going to Montego Bay or Ocho Rios, and it's a 7-day package including airfare. It will tell me that in that package, I can go to maybe Dunn's River Falls, or I can go to some heritage site, a location. It might be tickets to some music festival, if it's around the same time as Reggae Sunfest. You know, it's packaged. So as the consumer, I look at it and I say, oh my goodness, this is nice. All I gotta pay is $2,000 US, and I can go to Jamaica for 7 days. I don't have to think about anything else. You can get the same experience in Guyana, but we're failing to package it in the same way. So they would have to do a little more research. Somebody might have told them about Kaieteur Falls, and they'll have to go one place to book a trip to Kaieteur Falls. Or they may have to go to one or two tour operators that may give them a 3-day visit to the Rupununi, a 3-day visit to Kaieteur, a 1-day visit to Kaieteur, or somewhere to one of our forts. But it's not packaged as, hey, I just can see a range of different things, including my airfare, including my hotel, and it's less work for me. So I get the criticism, oh gosh, we got to do so much research. We got to check on this, we got to check on this, we got to check on that. And so what we were looking at the forum was, how is it we better package? It means that the hotelier has to work with the tour company, has to work with the airlines, has to work with Liat or Caribbean Airlines to really put that package together to meet the needs of the consumer. And so we focused on that. In terms of product innovation, what are the new products that somebody that wants to invest in the industry can start thinking about? We don't have a zip line. What about spas in the rainforest? Everybody in the world is interested in health, eco, touching base, natural food products. Do the artists create a retreat, which will push the whole notion of creative tourism, which is a buzzword? Do we package more trips to Surama, where I went to, and where in the evenings they have this fabulous bonfire and they do their traditional dance, and you can interact with the Amerindian communities, and for 2 days you eat their food? You know, those are the experiences that today's tourist wants to see. So I think the forum really prepared us to start thinking, what are the new products that we can develop? We don't have a safari. Somebody asked me about that the other day. How come you can go to Kenya and different places in the world and you can have an area that's earmarked as a safari and you could see all the animals there? We have giant anteaters. We have giant jaguars. We have the harpy eagle. We have the arapaima. When is it that some private sector person is going to create an area that could be a safari, that one could drive through maybe and see in specific areas that kind of experience? So the opportunities are endless.
Are you looking at collaborating with the private sector in creating more investment into tourism, maybe in some of those areas you talked about? And exactly having concluded that tourism forum, do you see from coming out of that, do you see exactly that we're going to get there in sometime soon?
Absolutely. Let me say that for the businesses that are in existence today, one of the things that we have been looking at, and we're going to have that information out before the end of the year. The ministry has actually looked at a range of agencies that have funding available. And these are funds that private sector businesses can access at low interest rates. Just recently on television, I was happy to see that the Small Business Bureau have put ads on the television because, believe it or not, there were funds available at the Small Business Bureau for a long time. But not a lot of Guyanese businesses have come forward and taken advantage of that. So our responsibility is to say to the private sector, if you need to raise your business to a different level, there are entities that are willing to lend monies at a rate that is far more competitive than the commercial banks. So that's one of the things that we're doing right now to build the current, the folks that are in existence. As you know, Minister of Business, Dominic Gaskin, is very strong and is working at the repackaging and revamping of Go Invest. Because Go Invest really has to be able to step up and to be able to, in a much easier, faster manner, provide investment opportunities for people in the tourism sector. And so in next year, we will launch a revised version of the investment brochure, which has specific things for tourism investment. It includes, for example, tax-free holidays depending on the level of your investment. It includes duty-free concessions on vehicles that are specifically for certain areas that we want to open up. Let's say the Rupununi, Essequibo, the tourism-related areas. It is concessions in terms of when you're purchasing some of your supplies, whether it's linen, toiletries, sheets, whatever it is, chairs, beds, whatever it is. So there's a comprehensive package that we want to relaunch in terms of investment support. So I think that when you look at funding, we also are looking at getting assistance for small businesses so that they can get help in preparing the proposals. Because there's money in the GRIF fund for tourism and agriculture. But what is required in terms of preparing a proposal is sometimes beyond the capabilities of a small business. So that's another area we have to provide help in.
Minister, can we talk a little bit about the challenges? You have mentioned quite a lot of what you are doing and what you plan to do. But this having been a brand new ministry created from the bottom, can you just give us an idea of what are some of the challenges you had to deal with?
Okay, the first challenge has been that, of course, the public sector understandably takes a lot longer to get things done. So it is, I think that we've kind of gotten used to in Guyana that anything we want to do could be done tomorrow, come back tomorrow kind of syndrome. And therefore I think generally in the public sector and also in our country as a whole, we need a greater awareness that time is money. And when it comes to my sector, you know, I have businesses. They're private sector companies that have been holding on for a long time. And therefore, I understand clearly that certain things have to be put in place to create an environment that they can flourish even more in. So that leads me to emphasize too that the nature of tourism is that everybody has to be involved. We cannot do it just the private sector and the Ministry of Tourism. We depend on every single Guyanese to play a role, meaning that you can have a tourist that comes to Guyana, they land, they're walking down Main Street. The tour operators have created a great program. They've taken them, they've had a wonderful experience. The hotel has looked after them well. They go down Main Street or any street and they get robbed. That's a big issue. That has undone the 20 or how many other people that have worked to make that experience good. They go down the road and some idiot has emptied a bag of garbage just because they were too lazy to keep it at home, or a minibus has emptied, you know, Kentucky or whatever the fast food. Kentucky isn't around now, but whatever the fast food, they've thrown it out on the streets, and the tourist walks past that or they see that, and it kind of negates their impression of Guyana. And that's why one of the encouraging things I've seen recently is any Guyanese on the street taking responsibility for how the place looks and how other Guyanese treat. So I was happy to see somebody the other day saying to somebody, no, you can't throw that there, pick it up. Because if you've got a beautiful street that everybody's cleaned up, why would you want to do that? You know, I was most distressed. We had a lovely lighting up of our Christmas tree at Rahaman's Park. We put a manger there, a nativity scene, and two masquerade figures. Because we said people traveling through Guyana, people driving, could take a couple of seconds, look at this beautiful tree all lit up, look at the nativity scene, and enjoy the spirit of Christmas. Somebody steals the nativity scene and part of the masquerade figures. You know, we're working hard to create play parks, to establish, put chairs and benches that people can sit and enjoy. And therefore there's a responsibility from all Guyanese to ensure that nobody can break up the concrete and move the chair. You know, so one of the things I recognize is that next year I have to do a little more in terms of the messaging to Guyanese in general, all ages, all races, all parts of the country, for them to understand that everybody can benefit from this tourism. We had a very unfortunate incident the other day, and I don't want to go into too much detail, but I think it's an important example to talk about. And that was a cruise ship that was coming to visit for a couple of hours that came into the harbor. The pilot that should have brought the ship in was not where he was supposed to be at the time that he was supposed to be. And the cruise ship decided, you know what, we're leaving. Because that is how international business operates. If they say that they're arriving with a group of tourists and they're arriving at 5 in the morning, in most parts of the world, at 4:45, they're already there. And therefore the pilot cannot arrive an hour and a half later. There are enough places in the rest of the world that that ship could go to. On that occasion, there were many trips to Kaishur that were cancelled. People that were going to the forts up the Essequibo reservations in restaurants all across Guyana that were made, that went through the window. Trips, day trips, city tours. That is the magnitude of what we're dealing with. Now that trip, that boat is supposed to come back on the 18th of December. And we're hoping that the company doesn't say, given that experience, this Guyana is a waste of time, they're not ready. And it actually took, the company that arranged that had been working on this for 3 years previously. And when I went to World Travel Market, had 3 meetings with cruise ships, smaller in nature, that are perfect for Guyana's product. These are ships that the people on those ships are the 45 to 70 age group. They have the disposable income. They're going through the Panama Canal. They're going through Venezuela. They're coming to Brazil, and we were fortunate to encourage them to come to Guyana. So this is where I use that just to emphasize that everybody has a stake in this. And so we have to be extremely serious. We need the ports, Molson Creek. We need the places where they dock in Georgetown. We need taxi drivers. We need minibus drivers. Everybody has to be cognizant and understand that this can be a large industry in our country. It can employ more and more people if we get off the ground. And so I ask their support.
I guess it's a case of where we have to work on changing our mentality first.
Yeah.
To accommodate government's vision and the drive in tourism.
Yeah. Actually, can I just add, the other challenge that we have too, of course, is funds. Because marketing Guyana costs money. We want to be able to send international messages so that just like how you can turn into some of the major international news organizations, whether it's CNN, BBC, and every now and again, see a message from the U.S. Virgin Islands, Barbados, Jamaica. Guyana, if we really want to play the game, has to start marketing at that level. And so we've been able to promote ourselves in our diaspora because it's been an affordable way of doing it. We want to do more within the Caribbean region, but at some stage we need to step out onto the international stage. And therefore we have to have money there to do that. I am happy that our Minister of Finance had a very good meeting with the private sector, and they were able to promote some of the initiatives that we think that can push the industry forward. And some of those, for example, are things like creating a different VAT rate for the tourism industry. In many parts of the Caribbean and other parts of the world, because tourism is seen as an export industry, meaning that people are coming in and leaving, the rate of VAT is different. The rate of VAT in the hotels, in the restaurants, for all the entities that are related to the tourism product. And that allows the cost to be a little cheaper to the consumer. And so that's something that we're lobbying for. And I'm looking forward to speaking with the Minister of Finance and finalizing what can be put in place to give our tourism sector a little extra push. You know, we feel confident that, and when I say we, I mean the Ministry of Tourism and the GTA, we're confident we could get the job done. And with a little support, we can really position the tourism sector as a key income generation, a key earner.
Finally, before we close, you mentioned quite a lot of things that
Yeah.
we can look forward to, those that are ongoing, but can you briefly pinpoint for me what specifically is your vision and your focus for 2016 for tourism?
My vision for 2016 is I want more bodies, more feet walking on Guyanese soil. Whether they come by airplanes, through ogle, meaning it could be regional travel, Chedijagan, which is international travel, whether they come through the promotion of multi-destination marketing and activities, and we've spent a lot of time building on those possibilities. We should see results from Suriname, French Guiana, Barbados through the Memorandum of Understanding, and also to a lesser extent Trinidad, because we've had initial conversations and we want to build on that. So next year I want more people in this country. I want them coming by boat, coming by sea, coming by boat, by the ferry, coming in from different parts of the country, smaller boats, speed boats, coming by air, however they're going, coming from the diaspora for our 50th anniversary. More people in Guyana spending money. Spending in the hotels. If they're staying with family and friends, they're going to be going out to eat. They're going to be going to the tourism locations. They're going to be going to visit the regions where they come from, supporting some of the activities that those regions have planned for next year. At the end of the day, we want more people in Guyana seeing what we have to offer and spending money in this country.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. This has been a discussion with the Honorable Cathy Hughes, Minister of Tourism, on Guyana's tourism product and marketing and selling Guyana overseas. I hope you have learned quite a lot, as much as I did. Thank you.